My neighbor used me as a fake husband to escape her stalker. Now I can't escape her. She was standing in my doorway at 2:47 a.m., mascara streaking down her face, wearing a robe that looked like she'd grabbed it in a panic. I'd seen her maybe 3 times in the 8 months I'd lived in apartment 4B, always just polite nods in the hallway. Now she was whispering please with a desperation that made my stomach clench. "He's outside," she said, her voice cracking. "I can hear him pacing by my door. If he thinks I'm alone, he's going to break it down. I need you to answer my door. I need him to think I have a husband, just for tonight, just until he leaves." I should have said no, should have told her to call 911 to hide in my bathroom while I dealt with whatever psycho was terrorizing her. Instead, I pulled on a shirt and followed her barefoot across the hallway to apartment 4A. The second I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. Her apartment wasn't messy, wasn't showing signs of someone fleeing in terror. Everything was arranged perfectly. Candles on the coffee table, wine glasses, 2 of them, one with lipstick marks, like she'd been expecting company. But before I could process that, someone pounded on her door so hard the frame shook. Her hand grabbed my wrist, nails digging in. "Please," she whispered. "Just answer it. Tell him to leave. Tell him your wife needs to sleep." The pounding came again, harder. A male voice, rough and angry, demanding she open the door. I walked to the door and opened it with the chain still on, the way you do when you're not sure what's on the other side. A man stood there, mid-30s, built like he spent serious time in a gym, with a neck tattoo that disappeared under his collar. His eyes went from angry to confused when he saw me. "Who the hell are you?" "Her husband," I said, keeping my voice level. "And you need to leave. Now." His face did something complicated, cycling through disbelief, rage, and something else I couldn't identify. "Husband?" He looked past me, trying to see into the apartment. "Olivia? You lying bitch. You don't have a husband." She came up behind me then, wrapping her arms around my waist from behind, her head pressing against my back. "Baby, please make him go away." The word baby came out trembling, genuine fear in her voice. "I told you we were done," she said to the man. "I told you to stop coming here. You said you lived alone." His voice had an edge now, dangerous. "You said there was no one else." "Because there wasn't," I said, making my voice harder. "Until I moved in 3 months ago. We got married last month. Now get away from my wife's door before I call the cops." The lie came so easily it surprised me. The man stared at me for a long moment, his jaw working like he was trying to decide whether to believe this. Finally, he stepped back. "This isn't over, Olivia. I know you're lying." He looked at me. "I know you're lying." Then he turned and walked down the hallway, but not toward the stairs, toward the elevator, where he could watch, where he could wait. I closed the door and turned to find Olivia slumped against the wall, her hand pressed to her mouth. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much. He won't believe it. He's going to watch my door now. He's going to see you leave." The panic in her voice seemed real, but something about this whole situation felt staged. "I need you to stay," she said quickly. "Just tonight. Sleep on my couch. If he sees you leave in 5 minutes, he'll know we lied. If you stay until morning, leave for work, like this is your apartment too, maybe he'll believe it. Maybe he'll finally leave me alone." I looked around her apartment again, the wine glasses, the candles, the perfectly arranged throw pillows. This didn't look like the home of someone living in fear. "Olivia," I said carefully, "what's really going on here?" She looked up at me, and for just a second, I saw something in her eyes that wasn't fear, something calculating. Then it was gone, replaced by tears. "Please," she said, "I know this is insane. I know you don't know me, but he's been stalking me for 3 months. He won't accept that I broke up with him. He shows up at my work. He follows me to the gym. He sends me photos of myself that he takes without me knowing. The police say they can't do anything until he actually hurts me. I just need him to think I've moved on, that I'm married, that there's a man here who won't let him near me, just until he gives up and finds someone else to obsess over." The thing is, everything she said sounded reasonable, sounded like the kind of nightmare that happens to women all the time, but something in my gut was screaming that this was wrong, that I was being played, that I should walk out right now. Instead, I said, "Okay, just tonight." She smiled, relief flooding her face. "Thank you. God, thank you. You can have the bedroom. I'll take the couch. No, I'll take the couch. You shouldn't have to give up your bed because of my mess." She didn't argue, just disappeared into her bedroom and came back with blankets and a pillow. I settled onto the couch, which was surprisingly comfortable, and tried to make sense of what I'd just agreed to. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional sound of traffic from outside. I must have dozed off because I woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. Olivia was in the kitchen, wearing yoga pants and a tank top, her hair pulled back, looking nothing like the terrified woman from last night. "Morning," she said brightly. "I made coffee. Figured you'd need it before work." I sat up, disoriented. "What time is it?" 7:30. "I wasn't sure when you needed to leave, so I wanted to make sure you were up." She handed me a mug, her fingers brushing mine. "Thank you again for last night. I owe you everything." "I need to check if he's still out there," I said. "If he left, you're clear." She walked to the window and peered through the blinds. Her body tensed. He's in his car, across the street. He's been watching all night. I joined her at the window. Sure enough, there was a black sedan parked with a clear view of the building entrance. I could see someone in the driver's seat, though I couldn't make out details from this distance. Okay, I said. So I leave for work like normal. Go to my apartment, shower, change, leave. That should be convincing enough. She bit her lip. The thing is, he knows everyone in this building. He's seen you before. If you go back to 4B, he'll know we lied. He'll know you live across the hall, not with me. My stomach dropped. How do you know he's seen me before? Because he's obsessive. He takes photos of everyone who lives here. He has files on all the residents. He knows your name is Daniel. He knows you work in software development. He knows you're single and you moved in 8 months ago from Seattle. The way she said it, so matter of fact, made my blood run cold. How do you know what he knows? She looked away. Because he sends me the files. To prove he's watching. To prove he knows everything. She pulled out her phone and showed me a folder of photos. Pictures of me getting my mail, walking to my car, coming home with groceries, all taken from a distance, all without my knowledge. The timestamps went back months. This guy had been surveilling the entire building and I'd never noticed. We need to go to the police, I said. Right now. With these photos, they have to take this seriously. She shook her head. I've tried. 5 times. They say it's not enough. He's not threatening me directly. He's not breaking any laws by taking photos in public. They told me to get a restraining order, but I need evidence of actual threats first. It's a nightmare loop. She sat down, her hands shaking. That's why I needed you last night. If he thinks I'm married, if he thinks there's a man here who's protecting me, maybe his obsession will break. Maybe he'll realize I'm not available and move on. I need to get ready for work, I said. Can you loan me some clothes? Something that makes it look like I live here? She brightened immediately. Of course. My ex left some things here. You're about the same size. She disappeared into the bedroom and came back with jeans and a button-down shirt. They fit almost perfectly, which should have been my second warning sign. The first was the wine glasses that were too perfectly arranged. I changed in her bathroom, and when I came out, she was waiting by the door with a travel mug of coffee and a brown bag. Lunch, she said, in case he's watching that closely. You need to look like you're leaving for a normal day of work from your own home. We synchronized our movements like actors in a play. She kissed my cheek at the door. Loud enough for anyone listening to hear, she said, "Have a good day at work, honey. I'll see you tonight." I walked down the hallway to the elevator, acutely aware that I was being watched. In the lobby, I glanced through the glass doors and saw the black sedan still parked across the street. The man from last night was definitely watching. I walked to my car, which was parked in the resident lot, and drove away like everything was normal. But instead of going to work, I circled back and parked 3 blocks away. I needed to see what would happen next. Would the guy follow me? Would he leave? Would he confront Olivia? I walked back toward the building, staying out of sight, and found a coffee shop with a clear view of the entrance. The black sedan was still there. For 3 hours, I sat in that coffee shop, watching. The man didn't move, didn't leave, just sat there watching the building. Around 11, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's Olivia. I got your number from the building directory. Thank you again for this morning. He finally left around 10. I think it worked." I stared at the text. The building directory didn't have phone numbers, just apartment numbers and last names. "How did you actually get my number?" I texted back. The response came immediately. "I asked the landlord, told him we were neighbors and I needed to reach you about a package." That made sense, but something about it still felt off. "I need my clothes back," I texted. "I'll bring them by tonight. Can you leave them outside my door?" There was a long pause before her response. "I'd really like to thank you properly. Maybe I could make you dinner. As a thank you for saving my life." I hesitated. Every instinct was screaming at me to keep distance from this woman, but the rational part of my brain said she'd just been through something traumatic and was trying to be kind. "Dinner's not necessary. Just leave the clothes outside 4B. Another pause. Then, "Please, I really need to explain everything. There's more to this story than you know, and I need to ask you one more favor." I closed my eyes. "One more favor. That's how it always starts. What favor? Can you pretend to be my husband one more time? Just for a few days, until I'm sure he's really gone." Against every ounce of common sense I possessed, I texted back, "We need to talk about this in person. Tonight. 6 o'clock. Your place." I spent the rest of the day at work unable to focus, my mind replaying everything that had happened. By the time 6 o'clock arrived, I'd convinced myself that I was overreacting, that Olivia was just a frightened woman who'd been driven to desperate measures by a stalker. I knocked on her door at 6 exactly. She answered wearing a dress, makeup done, hair styled. Music was playing inside. The table was set for 2 with actual cloth napkins and flowers in a vase. This wasn't a quick thank you dinner. This was a date. "Daniel," she said, smiling. "Come in." I stayed in the doorway. "Olivia, this feels like a lot. I just came to get my clothes and hear you out." Her smile faltered. "I'm sorry. I just wanted to make something nice, to show my appreciation. After everything you've done." I stepped inside, keeping my distance. "You said there was more to the story." She nodded, her expression turning serious. "Let's sit down. I made pasta. We can talk while we eat." The pasta was actually excellent, which somehow made everything worse. We ate in uncomfortable silence for a few minutes before she finally spoke. His name is Adrian Wolf. We dated for 6 months last year. When I tried to break up with him, he wouldn't accept it. He started showing up everywhere. My work, my gym, the grocery store I go to. At first, I thought it was coincidence, but then he admitted he was tracking my phone. He'd installed some app without my knowledge that let him see everywhere I went. I had to get a new phone, change all my passwords, move apartments. This place was supposed to be my fresh start, but he found me 3 months ago. She took a shaky breath. The police won't help until he does something actionable. A restraining order requires proof of threats or violence. I have neither. Just photos and coincidental run-ins that he claims are innocent. My lawyer says I'm in a legal gray area where I'm being terrorized but have no recourse. That's why I needed you last night. If he thinks I have a husband, a man who lives with me and would notice if something happened to me, maybe he'll finally back off. She looked at me with those large, sincere eyes. I know it's insane to ask you to keep pretending, but could you do it for just a week? Let him see you coming and going from my apartment a few times. Maybe stage a few public outings together so he sees we're actually a couple. After a week, if he hasn't backed off, we try something else. But I think this might actually work. Everything she said made perfect logical sense. I should have said yes, should have helped this woman who was clearly in danger. But something was still wrong, something I couldn't articulate. When I got home, I did what I should have done from the beginning. I Googled Adrian Wolf. 3 hours of searching later, I found him. He had a LinkedIn profile showing he worked in medical device sales, a Facebook page that was mostly private but showed some public posts about hiking and his dog, an Instagram with photos of scenic views and craft beer. Nothing about him screamed dangerous stalker. More importantly, I found an Adrian Wolf who'd left a review for a restaurant in Denver 6 months ago. If he'd been stalking Olivia in our city for 3 months, why was he leaving restaurant reviews in Denver 6 months ago? I dug deeper and found an Adrian Wolf who'd gotten married 3 years ago, found wedding photos, found his wife's Facebook page, which had recent photos of them together at a barbecue 2 weeks ago. Either this was a different Adrian Wolf, or Olivia's stalker was a married man living in Denver who somehow was also stalking her in our city. Neither made sense. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door. Daniel, I know you're having doubts. I would too. Can we meet for coffee? I need to show you something that will explain everything. Please. Oh, I met her at the Starbucks down the street at noon. She brought a laptop and a thick folder of documents. This is everything, she said, opening the folder. Police reports from my old city, screenshots of messages from Adrian, photos he sent me, restraining order applications that were denied. As I flipped through the documents, my unease grew. The police reports listed a different name, not Adrian Wolf, someone named Marcus Dalton. I pointed to the name. You said his name was Adrian Wolf. She blinked, confusion crossing her face. I lied about his name. For his privacy. I didn't want you to be able to find him and confront him. I'm calling him Adrian, but his real name is Marcus. Why would you protect the privacy of your stalker? I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I don't know. That was stupid. I wasn't thinking clearly. I'm sorry. She pushed the laptop toward me. But look at these messages. These are from him. The messages were disturbing. Obsessive declarations of love mixed with angry accusations of betrayal. Threats that if he couldn't have her, no one could. Photos of her taken from a distance. But something about them felt performative, like someone trying to create evidence of stalking rather than actual stalking messages. How did you meet Marcus? I asked. At work. He was a client. We went on a few dates, and I realized he was too intense, too clingy. When I tried to end things, he spiraled. She closed the laptop. I know this all sounds insane. I know you don't have any reason to trust me. But I'm terrified, Daniel. Last night when you pretended to be my husband, I felt safe for the first time in months. I'm not asking you to marry me for real. I'm just asking you to help me feel safe for a little while longer. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was beautiful in a way that seemed almost calculated. Perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect vulnerability in her expression. Everything about her was designed to make a man want to protect her. I'll think about it, I said, but I need you to be completely honest with me. No more lies about names, no more surprises. If I'm going to help you, I need the whole truth. She nodded eagerly. Of course. Anything you want to know. Ask me anything. Who was at your apartment the night before last? The night before you came to my door. The wine glasses and candles suggest you had company. Her face froze for just a fraction of a second before composing itself. A friend came over. We had wine and talked. She left around midnight. What friend? Just a co-worker. Monica. She knows about the stalking situation and checks in on me regularly. Can I talk to Monica? To verify your story? Olivia's expression shifted, something cold flickering behind her eyes before the warmth returned. Why would you need to verify my story? Because nothing about this situation adds up, I said carefully. Because I need to know I'm not being manipulated into something I don't understand. She stood up abruptly. You know what? Forget it. I shouldn't have asked you for help. This was a mistake. She grabbed her laptop and folder. I'm sorry I bothered you. I watched her walk out of the Starbucks, and relief washed over me. Whatever game she was playing, I was out. I went back to my apartment, changed the locks, and decided to pretend the whole thing never happened. That lasted exactly one day. The next evening, I came home to find Adrian Wolf, or Marcus Dalton, or whoever he actually was, sitting in the hallway outside my apartment. He stood when he saw me, hands raised in a peaceful gesture. "Daniel, right? We need to talk about Olivia." I kept my distance, keys gripped in my fist like a weapon. "I'm not interested in whatever drama you two have going on. Please, just 5 minutes. Then I'll leave and never bother you again." Against my better judgment, I let him into my apartment. He sat on the edge of my couch, looking exhausted and desperate. "My name is Adrian Wolf," he started. "I'm not stalking Olivia. I'm a private investigator hired by her ex-husband to document her behavior for a custody case." He pulled out a license proving he was indeed a licensed PI. Olivia was married for 3 years, had a daughter, lost custody last year after her ex-husband provided evidence that she was unstable, creating false stalking scenarios, manipulating men into protecting her, using these fabricated situations to avoid her custody responsibilities. I felt my blood run cold. "You're saying none of this is real?" "Not the way she's telling it. Her ex-husband's name is David Chen. He hired me 6 months ago because Olivia keeps filing false police reports claiming he's harassing her, which violates his custody agreement. Every time he tries to see his daughter, Olivia claims she feels unsafe, claims there's a stalker, claims she needs protection. She's used 3 different men in the past year as fake husbands to support her claims. You're number 4. He pulled out his phone and showed me photos. Different men entering and leaving Olivia's apartment over the past months. Police reports where she'd claimed each one was her husband. Custody hearing documents where judges had dismissed her claims when the men admitted they barely knew her. "This can't be real," I said, but even as I said it, pieces were clicking into place. The perfectly staged apartment, the convenient stalker showing up at exactly the right time, her knowledge of my name and details about me before we'd ever spoken. "She researched you," Adrian said. "She picks men who live alone, who work from home, who don't have obvious girlfriends or social lives, men who might be lonely enough to play hero for a beautiful woman in distress. She grooms you slowly, learns your schedule. Then she creates a crisis and pulls you in. I need you to go to the police," he continued. "Tell them the truth about what happened, that she asked you to lie, that there was no actual threat. Without your testimony, her ex-husband can't prove she's fabricating these situations, and she gets to keep playing victim while keeping him from his daughter." "Where's the daughter now?" I asked. "With her father. She has supervised visitation every other weekend, but she keeps claiming she can't make it because of stalkers or threats or safety concerns. She's missed the last 6 visits. The daughter is 5 years old and starting to forget her mother exists." I felt sick. If this was true, I'd been played perfectly, but I still needed proof. "Do you have the ex-husband's contact information? I want to hear his side." Adrian handed me a business card. "David Chen, corporate attorney. His office number was listed. Call him," Adrian said. "Ask him about the pattern, about the other men, about why he's fighting so hard for custody." After he left, I sat in my apartment trying to process everything. 2 completely contradictory stories. Either Olivia was a victim of a sophisticated stalker, or she was a manipulator using fake stalking scenarios to avoid custody responsibilities. I called David Chen. He answered on the second ring, his voice professional and wary. "This is about Olivia, isn't it? Adrian said you might call. Tell me about the other men," I said. "Mr. Morrison," he began, then paused. "May I call you Daniel? Over the past year, my ex-wife has recruited 4 men, including you, to pose as her husband in various scenarios. The first was a man named Thomas Rivera. She convinced him she was being stalked by me, her ex-husband. Thomas filed a police report on her behalf, showed up to a custody hearing as her emotional support, then discovered weeks later that everything she'd told him was fabricated. The second was James Whitmore. Similar pattern. She claimed an ex-boyfriend was stalking her. James posed as her new boyfriend to scare him off. Turned out the ex-boyfriend was actually her daughter's pediatrician, who she'd been harassing for rejecting her romantic advances. The third was Ryan Kowalski. He lasted the longest because Olivia had refined her approach, convinced him they were in a real relationship. He found out the truth only after she asked him to lie to a judge about witnessing me threaten her, which I have never done. There's a protection order preventing me from coming within 500 feet of her, which makes seeing my daughter nearly impossible. And now there's you," he continued. "Adrian sent me photos of you entering and leaving her apartment, playing the concerned husband. She's good at this, Daniel. She's incredibly good at making men feel like heroes, like they're saving her from something terrible. But the only person she's running from is accountability. Why does she want to avoid custody?" I asked. "Because she never wanted to be a mother," David said quietly. "We had our daughter because I wanted children. Olivia went along with it to make me happy. But after Lily was born, Olivia couldn't bond with her. Postpartum depression turned into something else, something darker. She started disappearing for days at a time, coming home only when I threatened to file for divorce. The final straw was when I came home early from work and found 3-year-old Lily alone in the apartment. Olivia had left hours earlier for a spa day and forgotten our daughter existed. I filed for divorce immediately, got full custody with supervised visitation, but Olivia can't accept that narrative because it makes her look like a bad mother. So, she creates these elaborate scenarios where she's the victim, where external forces are preventing her from being the mother she claims to want to be. His voice cracked. My daughter asks about her mother every day, and I have to tell her that mommy can't see her right now because mommy is scared, even though the truth is mommy is too busy playing victim to remember she has a child. I need to verify this, I said. I need to see court documents, custody records, something concrete. I'll email everything to you tonight, David said. But I'm begging you, don't play along with whatever story she's telling you. Don't be another man she uses to hurt my daughter. The email arrived an hour later. Hundreds of pages of court documents, psychological evaluations, police reports, all painting the exact picture David had described. Olivia Chen, formerly Olivia Morrison, had been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder and histrionic personality disorder, had a documented history of fabricating crises to gain attention and sympathy, had lost custody of her 5-year-old daughter due to neglect and emotional abuse. The man she'd called her stalker, Marcus Dalton, was actually a different private investigator from 2 cities ago who'd been documenting her behavior for a different case. She'd simply recycled his name when creating the Adrian Wolf character. The wine glasses in her apartment the night I met her, a date with another potential recruit she was grooming. I just happened to be more convenient at that moment. Everything was a lie. Everything. I should have gone straight to the police, should have given them everything David had sent me. Instead, I knocked on Olivia's door. She answered with a surprised smile that quickly faded when she saw my expression. "You know?" she said. It wasn't a question. "I know," I confirmed. "Can I come in?" She stepped aside, and I entered the apartment that I now saw clearly for what it was. A stage set, a carefully constructed environment designed to make men feel protective and needed. The vulnerable feminine touches, the photos carefully placed to suggest a life that didn't exist. "We should sit down," she said calmly. "Let me explain." "There's nothing to explain, Olivia. Or should I call you by your married name? Chen?" Her expression didn't change. She sat on the couch and patted the cushion next to her. "Sit, please." I remained standing. "Where's your daughter?" That got a reaction. Her composure cracked for just a moment before reassembling itself. "My daughter is fine. She's with her father, where she belongs." "You don't want custody," I said. "You never did. This whole thing was just a performance to maintain your victim narrative. You don't understand," she said, and now there was something desperate in her voice. "You don't know what it's like to be fundamentally broken, to know that you should feel something for your child and feel nothing, to watch other mothers cry over scraped knees and wonder what's wrong with you that you can't even muster concern. I tried to be a good mother, I really did, but I would look at Lily and feel nothing except resentment that she needed so much from me. David deserved the truth. He deserved to know I couldn't be what he needed. But the truth makes me a monster. The truth makes me the villain in everyone's story. So, I created a different truth, one where I'm a victim of circumstances beyond my control, where external forces are keeping me from my daughter, not my own fundamental inability to love her. She looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something genuine in her expression, something empty and sad. "You were supposed to be easy, lonely software developer, working from home, no serious relationships visible on social media. You were supposed to feel special that a woman like me needed you, but you asked too many questions. You wanted proof. You didn't just accept the story and play your part. Most men do. Most men are so desperate to be heroes that they don't look closely enough to see they're being used." I pulled out my phone. "I'm calling the police. You're going to admit what you've done. You're going to stop interfering with David's custody." Her expression hardened. "If you do that, I'll tell them you're the one who's been stalking me, that you forced your way into my apartment last night, that I only went along with the fake husband story because you threatened me. I have bruises I can show them. I know how to play this. Which do you think they'll believe? The beautiful, frightened woman, or the strange man who lives alone and admits to lying to a stalker about being her husband?" My hand, holding the phone, began to shake. "You destroy me to avoid taking responsibility?" She smiled, and it was the coldest thing I'd ever seen. "I'd destroy anyone. That's what you don't understand, Daniel. I'm not a victim. I'm not someone who needs saving. I'm someone who has learned to survive in a world that expects me to be something I fundamentally cannot be. And I'm very good at survival." She stood and walked to her door, opening it. "You should leave now. Think carefully about what you're going to do with that information. Because if you go to the police, I promise you'll regret it." I left her apartment and went straight to the police station, told them everything, showed them the emails from David, the court documents, the history of fake stalking claims. The detective who took my statement listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, she said something that made my blood run cold. "Mr. Morrison, we appreciate you coming forward, but I need to tell you that Olivia Chen filed a report 3 hours ago claiming that you've been stalking her, that you forced your way into her apartment last night and have been harassing her ever since." She has photos of you entering and leaving her building at odd hours. She has testimony from neighbors who saw you in the hallway outside her apartment at 2 a.m. She has a medical report documenting bruises on her arms that she claims you caused. Everything you've told me could be seen as you trying to discredit her claims before we investigate you. I felt the room spin. She'd planned this. She'd known I would go to the police and had laid the groundwork to destroy me before I even knocked on her door. Do you understand what I'm telling you, Mr. Morrison? The detective continued. I need you to stay away from Olivia Chen. No contact whatsoever. If you approach her or her apartment again, I'll have to arrest you. I stumbled out of the police station in a daze. Olivia had won. She'd trapped me perfectly. If I did nothing, she would continue using men like me to avoid her custody responsibilities. If I fought back, she would destroy me with false accusations. Either way, she maintained control of the narrative. I went home and found another note slipped under my door. I told you to think carefully. Now you understand the situation. I don't want to hurt you, Daniel. I actually liked you more than the others. You were smarter, more perceptive, but I can't let you interfere with my life. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to move out of this building within the next month. You're going to tell anyone who asks that you needed a change. You're going to forget you ever met me. In exchange, I'll drop the stalking complaint. I'll tell the police I overreacted. We'll both move on with our lives. If you don't agree to this, I'll make sure the stalking charges stick. I have 3 neighbors who will testify they saw you acting strangely around my apartment. I have the building security footage showing you entering my apartment multiple times. I have a very good lawyer and a very compelling victim story. You have court documents about someone else's custody case and a story about being tricked that makes you look unstable. Choose wisely. That was 3 months ago. I'm still living in the same building, in apartment 4B, directly across from Olivia's door. I didn't leave, didn't follow her instructions. Instead, I installed cameras in my apartment facing the hallway. I document everything. Every man who enters her apartment, every time she leaves, every package delivered, every visitor. I've connected with Thomas Rivera, James Whitmore, and Ryan Kowalski, the 3 men before me. We've formed a support group of sorts, comparing notes on her tactics, documenting the pattern, building a case that no single judge can dismiss as a bitter ex-husband's delusions. We've hired our own attorney, filed our own complaints. We're trying to build something solid enough to cut through her carefully constructed victim narrative. But it's slow, so slow, because she's right about one thing. The system believes beautiful women who cry and claim victimhood. The system is designed to protect people like her and assumes men like us must have done something to provoke this kind of elaborate deception. Ryan Kowalski lost his job because she called his employer claiming he'd harassed her. Thomas Rivera is in therapy for PTSD from the psychological manipulation. James Whitmore moved to a different state entirely just to get away from the constant fear that she'll resurface in his life. And I'm still here, living across the hall from a woman who's holding my entire life hostage with the threat of false accusations. I can't move because that would look like guilt. Can't stay without constant documentation of my own innocence. Can't date because how do I explain to someone that I have to film my own hallway 24/7 because my neighbor might claim I'm stalking her? Yesterday, I saw Olivia with a new man. Young, earnest-looking, carrying flowers. He had that same hopeful expression I probably had 3 months ago. That same desire to be someone's hero. I watched him enter her apartment at 6 p.m. for what she'd probably told him was a thank you dinner. Watched him still be there at 11, at midnight, at 2 a.m. He's sleeping on her couch right now, or maybe in her bed. She's already told him some version of the story, already made him feel special and needed, already planting the seeds of the lie that will eventually consume him the way it consumed me. I should warn him, should slip a note under his car windshield or catch him in the parking lot, but I can't risk any contact with Olivia or her orbit. Can't give her ammunition to claim I'm violating the informal agreement we have where I don't leave and she doesn't press charges. So, I watch, I document, I wait. I've become exactly what she accused me of being. Someone who can't let go, who watches her door, who tracks her movements. The irony isn't lost on me. She turned me into her stalker by claiming I was her stalker. Created the very thing she accused me of being. My therapist says I'm experiencing a trauma bond. That Olivia's manipulation has created a psychological trap where I can't move forward because I'm waiting for some kind of resolution that will never come. That I need to let go for my own mental health. But I can't, because somewhere in a house across town, there's a 5-year-old girl named Lily who sees her mother every other weekend for supervised visits that last exactly 2 hours. A little girl who's learning that mommy can't be around more often because mommy has problems with scary people. A little girl who will grow up thinking the world is more dangerous than it is because her mother needs to maintain a narrative of victimhood. For Lily, I stay. For the next man Olivia will trap. For Thomas and James and Ryan and all the other men who've been destroyed by her games. I document, I wait, I watch, and I plan. Last week, David Chen called me. He's filed a new motion for full custody with no visitation. The documentation we've gathered, the testimony from 4 separate men about Olivia's pattern of behavior, the psychological evaluations. It's finally enough. Maybe. The hearing is in 6 weeks. If we win, Olivia loses her ability to claim she's being kept from her daughter, loses her primary victim narrative. Maybe then she'll move on to a new city, a new story, new victims. Maybe then I can finally stop watching her door, but I don't believe that anymore. Because 2 nights ago, Olivia knocked on my door at midnight. I opened it with the chain on, camera recording everything. She was wearing the same robe she'd worn 3 months ago, mascara streaking down her face in the same pattern. But this time, her expression was different. Not frightened, amused. "You think you're going to win?" she said. "You think the court is going to believe 4 bitter men over a mother fighting to see her child?" Her smile was vicious. "You have no idea how good I am at this. That hearing in 6 weeks? I'll walk in with medical records showing trauma from your stalking. I'll have a new therapist's report about my PTSD from being harassed by my ex-husband's hired thugs. I'll cry on the stand about how hard I've tried to be a mother while men like you destroy my life. And the judge will look at me, beautiful, broken, sincere me, and then look at you, a man who's been filming his neighbor for 3 months, who has a support group of other men obsessed with destroying me, who admits to lying to a stalker about being my husband, who seems just a little too invested in a stranger's custody case. Who do you think they'll believe?" She leaned closer to the gap in the door. "You should have left when I told you to, Daniel. Now you're in too deep. Now you're exactly what I said you were. A stalker who can't let go. A man who's become obsessed with a woman who rejected him. Every day you stay in this building, you prove my story true." She stepped back. "See you in court." I closed the door and stood there shaking. Because she's right. I've become the very thing she accused me of being. My entire life now revolves around documenting hers. I can't date, can't focus on work, can't think about anything except the next piece of evidence. Can't move forward because I'm trapped in this loop of trying to prove something that no one wants to believe. She's won. She won the moment I agreed to open her door 3 months ago. Won the moment I said I'd pretend to be her husband. Won the moment I thought I could outwit her by gathering evidence and going to the police. Because the real trap wasn't the fake stalker or the false accusations. The real trap was making me care, making me invested in her daughter's well-being, making me need to stop her from hurting other people, making me into someone who can't walk away even though walking away is the only thing that might save me. My neighbor used me as a fake husband to escape her stalker, but there never was a stalker. And now I can't escape her. I can't escape the woman across the hall who smiles at me in the hallway, who sometimes knocks on my door with cookies or to borrow sugar, always making sure the neighbors see her being friendly, building her narrative that I'm the one who's dangerous, who won't leave her alone, who's obsessed. I can't escape the security cameras I've installed that I check compulsively every hour. Can't escape the photo log I maintain of everyone who visits her. Can't escape the support group texts from Thomas and James and Ryan, other men who are just as trapped, just as unable to let go. Can't escape the countdown to a custody hearing where I'll have to testify about things I barely understand, where Olivia will perform the role of her life as the traumatized mother kept from her child by cruel men. Can't escape the knowledge that even if we win, even if the judge sees through her manipulation, she'll just move to a new city and start again with a new name and new victims. Tonight, I saw the new man leave her apartment, watched him walk to his car looking dazed and happy, like he'd just saved someone's life. Watched him drive away, probably thinking about what a good person he is, how special he must be, that a woman like Olivia trusted him with her safety. I should have left him a note, should have warned him, but I've learned that warning people about Olivia just makes me look crazier, makes her story about the obsessed stalker more believable. So, I watch him leave, document the time, add him to the list, wait for the inevitable moment when he'll realize what she's done to him. Wait for him to become another ghost in her orbit, another man who can't quite escape the woman who used him. My neighbor used me as a fake husband to escape her stalker. 3 months later, I'm still here, still watching her door, still trapped in the lie she created, still unable to escape. They say the best prison is one you build yourself. Olivia didn't need to lock me in. She just had to make me believe I could help. Make me believe that staying was noble, that documenting her was necessary, that I could somehow save the next victim. She made me my own warden, and I'm still here, still watching, still trapped, still unable to escape the woman across the hall who destroyed my life by asking me to save hers. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.